it's Jessii Vee. And oh my gosh, I'm like blending into the background right now. I love purple. So in today's video, we're gonna be talking about some very strange places. The first place is about this cursed Barbie theme park that may or may not actually exist. I think it's more of a creepypasta, but it's terrifying. And the second place is the most dangerous theme park that was ever created in the 1980s. Now, this theme park was literally run by teenagers, and that's why things went so wrong. But before we get started, I just wanted to remind you guys that we do have our Christmas mystery boxes live on the website. They have been out for about 4 or 5 days now, so they're very close to selling out. If you're curious what could be in there, I'll briefly show you. I'll be super fast, don't worry. There are 2 different styles of pom-pom hats that you can get. This one says V Team Forever, this one says Jessii Vee with aliens. There are 2 different kinds of makeup bags. This one is a mermaid scale one. This one is more of a Christmassy one that says Merry and Bright. There's a baby Yeti. I love him so much. I always like to put plushies into the boxes. And if you didn't know, a Yeti is like a snow monster. There are also different colored sand necklaces you can get. And it's just so cool because it's literally just this little glass vial filled with sand and rocks and shells. There's also different Christmas lip glosses you can get. There's like laptop stickers. There's all kinds of really cool things. So if you guys would like one before they sell out, I've linked them down below. I hope you love it. All right, and with that being said, let's jump right into today's video. This is probably one of the most bizarre experiences that I've ever told. Obviously, it's not my experience. It's an anonymous user's experience that I found online. But it's literally about this hidden Barbie theme park that 2 sisters found one day. So these 2 sisters were walking home from school one day when they noticed one of the roads were closed due to a huge car accident that happened. So they decided that they would take a different way home. Now, there was this very large forest that was kind of in the center of the neighborhood. So they assumed that if they walked through it, they would eventually get to their houses. Now, for some reason, their parents had always told them to never venture into this forest. They didn't know why. They just knew that they were never ever allowed to go there. But they just thought if they walked super fast, they would be home in no time and their parents would never know. Well, after only walking in the forest for about 5 minutes, one of the girls stepped on something that made a loud cracking sound. And when she looked down at the ground, she saw a broken face of a Barbie. And the body of the Barbie was like missing an arm and a leg. It was just so random to be on the ground in this forest. And as they kept walking through the forest, things got even stranger and stranger. They started seeing these pink streamers hanging from the trees and a distant sound of carnival music. The sky suddenly grew dark as if it was about to start storming. And after walking even deeper into the woods, they saw a Ferris wheel that was lit up with pink and yellow lights. And they wondered why they had never seen a literal theme park in the center of their neighborhood. They ran towards it and saw that everything was Barbie themed. All of the arcade games had Barbie faces plastered all over them. There was a ball pit with Barbie heads instead of balls. There was pink popcorn and Barbie shaped cake pops. Everything just looked so enticing and amazing to them. They played there for what seemed like hours and then decided to go home. And when they arrived at their house, they saw 3 police cars sitting in their driveway and their parents ran out to immediately hug them. Their parents asked them why they had been gone for 3 straight days. But to them, it had only seemed like hours. And after telling the police that they had been at this really awesome theme park in the middle of the forest, the police went to investigate and found the ruins of old rides in the middle of the forest. It looked like they hadn't been used in at least 30 years. Now, the police said this forest had a very strange history of children constantly going missing there throughout the years. Some were never found and others came back weeks or days later talking about this mysterious theme park that they had been at. And each kid said the park had a different theme depending on what they loved. For one kid, it was race cars. For one kid, it was Barbies. For another kid, it was Disney themed. So all the adults that lived in the area thought the forest was cursed and warned their kids to never go there. And that's how this story ended. I thought it was just super bizarre. So it's like this cursed theme park caters to these children and hopes that they'll stay there forever and ever. So weird. Okay, let's talk about a real theme park that actually existed back in the 80s and 90s. It was called Action Park. And this was reportedly America's most dangerous park ever. Now, this park opened in 1978 in New Jersey, and almost instantly things started to take a turn for the worst. So many people got injured at this park, and it was finally shut down in 1996, I believe. So I'm gonna tell you some of the most horrific things that happened there in the 18 years that it was active. Now, the problem was that all of the ride operators and all of the staff there were just young teenagers, and they were literally hired with no first aid training, with barely any work experience. They barely knew how to function the rides. It was pretty bad. Let's talk about the first bad attraction, the wave pool. The tidal wave pool quickly became a prominent attraction at Action Park. It was one of the first wave pools of its kind in the US. And because people hadn't really seen a wave pool before, people were so amazed by this. But instead of filling the wave pool with salt water, which you usually do to help swimmers stay afloat, they filled it with fresh water, which is a lot harder to float in. And apparently lifeguards had to save up to 100 people each day. Are you kidding me? This wave pool was so dangerous they had to have 12 lifeguards looking over it at once. And it says that 3 people actually drowned in this pool between 1982 and 1987, and it actually earned the nickname the Grave Pool. Could you imagine wanting to go play in something that was called the Grave Pool? Next we have the Alpine Slide. On the Alpine Slide, riders would climb aboard a tiny sled and launch themselves down a concrete track. Now riders would basically control themselves with this handbrake that people said was usually broken, which is not good. That's the other things. They would never really fix their rides when they broke. Now the sleds had 2 speeds. One was called slow and the other was called death awaits. Are you kidding me? And it says between 1984 to 1985, so just 1 year, there were 14 people who sustained fractures and 26 people had head injuries. Now this wasn't even the worst thing that happened on this ride. In 1980, an employee decided to go down this ride and actually fell off the edge of it. They fell into this rocky area below and unfortunately passed away. And get this, the ride remained open even after that. Next we have the Kayak Ride. The park's Kayak Ride was nothing more than a few large fans creating fake rapids on a watery track, which riders would paddle down. Now in 1982, a man was actually electrocuted while on this ride because he stepped too close to an exposed wire in the water, because they literally had fans, electric fans in the water, making this ride have rapids. Next we have the Tarzan Swing. The ride comprised of a long piece of rope which could swing people out over a giant pool. They would let go and fall into the chilly water below. Now the problem was the water that filled this pool was too cold for people to be in. They filled this pool up with natural spring water that was 30 degrees colder than the rest of the water at this park. And apparently in 1984, a man went into this pool and died of a fatal heart attack because the water was too cold. Next we have the looping water slide. The man who designed this ride had no engineering experience, which is a very bad sign. And after building this slide, they decided to test it out with dummies. And it literally says the dummies would often emerge from the slide decapitated or in pieces. This slide was only open for a month before it was shut down by state safety regulators. And literally the people who went down this slide often came out missing teeth. Are you serious? Next we have the go-karts. Each go-kart had a device on its motor to keep the top speed at around 20 miles per hour for safety reasons. If you've ever been on a go-kart ride, you can only go a certain speed and you can never surpass that, because then it's like a real car, which is not allowed. But the staff at this park found out a way to get the cars to go 50 miles per hour. So they started traveling at speeds capable of killing passengers. And the last really disturbing fact is that the town of Vernon, New Jersey allegedly had to purchase more ambulances to manage the multitudes of injuries at Action Park. On average, 10 people a day were severely injured at this place, so ambulances were constantly going in and out of this park that they had to get more. Are you serious? I mean, this whole thing just blows my mind. The entire time I was doing research for this video, I was like, are you kidding me? I cannot believe this park was allowed to even run for 18 years. What? Please comment down below if you or any of your parents or relatives have ever been to this park and what they thought of it. By the time it closed in 1996, I was only a few years old, so obviously a baby's not gonna go there, and I would never go there in general, so I'm very glad I never did. Anyways guys, that's the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, if you would like a Christmas mystery box, I have linked it down below, but I hope you have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!